Welcome back to Without Shortcuts. Today we are doing French bread. Alright, now just to make sure that your recipe turns out correctly and you get a good result, go ahead and reach down, hit that like button, maybe even give us a quick subscription, and that'll ensure that your recipe goes smoothly.
Now this isn't a true French bread, mostly because we're just using regular yeast. We're not using something called a pre-ferment to help our dough rise, which is something we'll talk about in a future video. Not something we need to worry about right now. For our series of date night videos, we just wanted to make sure that this was something that was accessible and as easy and quick as possible.
Now, if you are going to follow our series of videos for the perfect date night meal, we do recommend that you try and get the bread done first because you're going to use it in a couple of the other recipes down the line, and you want to make sure that it's done and ready to go. Now, that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Easy and quick as possible. All we're going to do is mix the dry ingredients together. We're going to throw the wet ingredients on top of that. We're going to mix it all up in the mixer and let it knead a little bit. Now again, we know not everybody has a stand mixer. This is definitely one of those recipes that can be done easily and quickly right on the countertop, and you can just knead it together by hand. All right, dry ingredients are ready. We're going to add about 2.5 tablespoons of good olive oil. We're going to add 1.5 cups of warm water, as always, not above 120 degrees because you don't want to kill your yeast.
All right, and then that's just gonna go on to the mixer. We'll get this all mixed together, and then once things are mixed together, we're gonna let this knead for 7 to 10 minutes probably. So our dough has been in the mixer for about 8 minutes or so. It's gotten to a point where it's a nice soft dough. It's not sticky, it's not tacky, it's also not really dry. Everything's come together, it's smooth, and it's really elastic. You can stretch it pretty well.
So now, as part of the date night series, you definitely don't want to have an entire sink full of dishes, so we're going to do this with as few pans as we can. That being said, we're just going to take in the mixing bowl, we're going to cover it with some plastic wrap, put it in the oven on our proofing setting, and let that go until it doubles in size. Then we'll come back and we'll shape it and get that in the oven.
Our bread is done proofing, so we're ready to go ahead and start shaping it and getting it ready for baking. So the first thing we're going to do is turn it out onto a lightly floured surface. And then we'll go ahead and knead it a few times, and then I'm going to go ahead and divide it into 2 roughly equal pieces.
So while Brian's getting that ready and just finishing it off, I'm going to get our pan ready. Now when we talk about the pan, there's a few different options. On the bottom you want just a baking sheet with either Silpat or a piece of parchment paper to make sure that the cleanup is easy. And then we have a French bread rack, which is just 2 nice curved little areas next to each other that we're going to set right on top of that and put our loaves one on each side. Now if you don't have this rack, you could really just split these up, form them into the shapes that you want, the nice loaves, and just set them on the pan. They may not get the same height that you're going to get doing it this way, but they're going to turn out just fine, and you're still going to have a very tasty and great product in the end. Alright, so these loaves are just about ready to go. I'm going to grab the flour. Since we do have the rack, we're just going to take and lightly flour our rack, just to make sure that it doesn't stick too badly and we can pull them off when they're done. Just like so.
Alright, and then once these are on the rack, we're going to go ahead and give them just a real light dust of flour here. Just enough to make sure that our damp towel that we're going to cover them with isn't going to stick. So we'll cover these guys up, and then those are going to sit for a second proof, which is going to take about 45 minutes. Our bread is almost done proofing, so we're gonna go ahead and preheat the oven. For our French bread today, we're gonna bake it at 450 degrees. Now, when you bake French bread, you want a nice moist environment. So if you're lucky enough to have one of those fancy steam ovens, you can do that. You can also spray your bread down. In this case, because it's a gas oven that's made to vent everything that's in the oven, spraying it's not going to work. So we went ahead and we stuck a pan of water down on the bottom rack of the oven. So that's going to help create that nice steamy environment for our bread.
So our French bread is just finishing up its proving. Before it's completely done, just a couple minutes before you put it in, you want to take either a razor blade or something sharp. In this case, I'm going to use my trusty chef's knife, El Tigre. I'm just going to score it across the top so I know kind of where it's going to have reliefs. And you can either do a couple going on the bias, or you can just do one nice one down the middle, whatever your preference is.
All right, and then the last step before this goes in the oven is we're going to give it just a quick egg wash, just to help give it some color and kind of help develop that nice chewy crust we're looking for. All right, so our bread's ready to go in the oven. So we're going to put it in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Our bread is done, it's out of the oven. It looks and smells fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and just take these off of the pan, put them on the cooling rack, and then we're just going to cool them down to room temperature.
So French bread's done. Everything came out just the way we would hope for. And we figure it is definitely worth giving a little taste on this. Now, we had considered doing a little bit of balsamic vinegar and some garlic and olive oil, mixing that together, maybe some ricotta cheese, something on top of it, but we decided in this rare instance, it's probably better just put a little bit of butter on it and we'll see what we made. There you go, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Here, here. I love this recipe. It's so easy, but it's light. It's got that nice chewy crust, you know, from having that moisture in the oven, and just such a smooth delivery.
Yeah, no, it's really fantastic. And like we have said before, super versatile. You can use this for a lot of different things. So whether you use this for croutons, garlic bread for your date night, or you just eat it like this, give it a try. Let us know down in the comments how it goes for you. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And until next time, skip the shortcuts.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.